Hello and welcome, dear listeners, to episode 127 of the Reformed Gamers, the show all about theology, video games, Anorak's Almanac, and anything else that we can think of. I'm your Parzival host, Logan.
And I am your Adam host, Skinner.
I was waiting for like some kind of maniacal laugh, man. Now I'm getting some strange like Joaquin Phoenix and Joker garb vibes. Let's move on from the show there. Dear listeners, in case you hadn't noticed, we got Adam over here, aka Skinner, joining us on the show to talk about some Ready Player One. In case you hadn't noticed from the title of the episode, Adam's just got a crazy busy schedule this week, and so he couldn't make it to record. So it's awesome to have one of our patrons here jumping on the show, helping us out to talk about really something that isn't really technically in our wheelhouse because it's a movie and a book, but we talk about what we've been reading on here. We deal with video games. Ready Player One has enough of that, of crossover stuff to where we're going to talk about it. And probably the popcorn theology guys are already like, where are we at? we'll get them on next time when we talk about Scott Pilgrim or something.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
It would be good. That's one, it actually just went on Netflix and I almost watched it today while I was at work.
I own it.
I did too. I think I bought it like 2 or 3 times. Love that movie.
Have you played the game?
That's a side scroller beat 'em up, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I played that on the 360. Gosh, years ago. Love that game too.
I'm still active on the PS3. It's awesome.
Nice, man. See, I'm gonna have to get a PS3 just so I can play it. But it's such a good movie. But anyway, dear listeners,
I'm sorry.
Nah, man. Hey, at least you didn't bring up My Hero Academia. Which, by the way, dear listeners, do you know how good of a show My Hero? No, I'm just kidding. That's all. We were talking about it quite a bit during the pre-show. But before we get derailed, like I'm prone to doing, hi, dear listeners. Hope you're glad to have me back. I'm just on a bit of a rabbit trail here, like Squirrel. You know, like that dog from Up, where he like can't maintain his focus, and so he's talking in mid-sentence, he stops and says "squirrel." That's literally me right now. But, dear listeners, I'm going to look at the show notes and try to keep us on track. Anyway, just a real quick bit of housekeeping brought to you by dear VIP Luke Strain, who supports us over the $25 tier on patreon.com/thereformedgamers. Spider-Man photo contest is still ongoing. Like we said before, 1 entry per person. Don't send us a batch of photos, otherwise we will pick the worst one out of that bunch. And then we'll have that be your entry. The new end date is going to be October 4th, so a couple days after this episode goes live is going to be when the cutoff date is, and we'll announce the winner in episode 128. And the winner of that contest is going to get a $20 PSN gift card that you can use to purchase you can use it to pre-order any of the new games coming out, buy a game that you have on your wish list, any one of those things. Really, it's kind of up to you. So if you're playing Spider-Man, you're getting your photos and stuff, pick your best one, send it to us on Twitter, tag us in the post at TRG Podcast, and then put the hashtag TRG Spider-Man. If you're in the Facebook group, just put the hashtag in there with your picture, and we'll take a look at it, and we will get the winner decided next episode. Yeah. And speaking of winners and stuff, it is our patron giveaway thingy, gift card giveaway episode, as well as our thank you patron shout out thingy, which is going to come a little bit later on. So I'm going to pick a name out of the hat here while Adam over there plays the drums, like that drum cat that you see on Reddit. Let me see. The winner is Caleb Schmidt. Good sir, you have won the gift card. I will send you a message.
Nice.
Via Patreon, and you will get, we'll talk about it. We'll see what you want. We'll see if you want a gift card to Chick-fil-A or something. I don't know. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the show. Hello and welcome to the Reformed Gamers. We like to start the show like we always do with a little bit of what we've been playing and what we've been reading. Brought to you by Eric Bryant, this edition of What Have You Been Playing? David, man, Adam, good sir, what have you been up to when it comes to playing video games?
Well, I mean, I won't go through the full list because I've got 8 current games going on right
Dang,
now.
Dude. Talking about me dabbing in some games there.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different systems.
Do you have just 8 TVs hooked up at once and you're just playing them all at the same time?
No, some of them I'm playing with the kids.
Oh,
some of
okay.
them I'm playing just, But I'll briefly hit a couple of ones I'm doing with the kids since I brought it up. Assassin's Creed Origins. Now, hold on. Before
so good.
You get to thinking you're slicing people's heads off in front of your kids. That's great. No.
Oh, you're playing it with your kids?
I'm actually doing the Discovery Quests.
Okay. Yeah.
With them. We've made it part of their homeschool curriculum. And so we're supposed to be doing ancient civilizations this year, and ancient Egypt was part of it. So it kind of timed just right. It was how I convinced my wife to let me buy it.
And for those of you at home that maybe don't know what Discovery Mode is or Discovery Quest is, it's literally like an interactive tour of that time period in ancient Egypt. So you're going through and you're seeing, you learn about mummies, pyramids, all sorts of things in that culture. It's really, really cool. It's one of my favorite things about that game, actually.
It's amazing and very well done. And I love that the fact that they have pictures of stuff from museums and stuff like that.
That was really cool.
Okay, so quickly switching gears though, because I could talk forever. On the other thing I'm playing with the kids, because I got to train them right.
Sure.
Is Super Mario RPG.
Oh, there you go.
Because I had never played that one.
Oh wow.
That's another one I blame y'all for.
Oh, okay.
So I got a working Super Nintendo. I got a working copy of it, and so now we're playing through it, and the kids are enjoying it. Plus, it's kind of a way to introduce them to the JRPG genre that is so amazing. But speaking of JRPGs, my big push right now is my plat that I'm going for to follow in your glorious footsteps, Logan, for Persona 4 The Golden.
Yes. Tell me about it, man. Where you at? How's it going?
Okay. So my first playthrough, I lost. My memory card died.
Oh, I remember you
so I completely lost that one. Finished the second playthrough, got the accomplice ending.
Nice.
Then restarted early on the save and got the first true ending. I'm now in June, so I've already gone through, just finished Kanji's area. So I think Rosette should be next, right?
I think so. That sounds about right.
Well, and then starts the true grind.
Yep.
Because hardcore Rosette fan is one that I'm missing.
Dude, it's such a pain. I remember that's the trophy that made me play that game 4.5 times. So
yeah,
be careful with that one.
I'm on playthrough 3.
Oh gosh, okay.
Because I lost that first one. But I knocked out all the ancillary stuff. All I have is social links and hardcore Rosette fan.
Oh, that's not too bad then.
And of course the personas, because you can't complete them without completing the social links.
Right.
My compendium's at like 95%.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I made every stinking persona you could make, aside from the ones that I didn't finish their social links for. Let's see. And then lastly, I've actually got a couple of Telltale games in my queue, Batman and the Borderlands, and nice. I only bring up that to mention the sadness of their closure and how messy it's getting.
Yeah.
It makes me so sad. I'm just like, they were the only ones doing it. And it was such, like, I know their core system was kind of crud and they needed to do some updates to it and fix some stuff, but it was, the stories were so good.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to Wolf Among Us 2 because I'm a huge Fables fan, and it just, I will no longer get that. But enough of my sadness. Tell me some goodness from your location, sir.
Yeah, man. So I've been playing The Bachelor, the video game, and it's interesting. I'm totally kidding. That's a throwback to an older episode.
Yeah, the dog ate that one, right?
Yeah, thankfully. I think my dog was doing me a favor. No, so update from I mean, I've missed an episode, so I mean there's a lot I could talk about. There's a lot of games I've been playing, but I'm only going to focus on 2 really. The one thing I do want to mention is I platinum Spider-Man, which is such a good game.
Good job.
I mean, thank you, good sir. It's a doable platinum. I'm not gonna lie. Any of you folks out there that don't normally get platinum trophies, you could literally get it just from doing everything in the game, and it's not that hard either. Cool thing about it is we did post. I mean, we've been doing a lot of Spider-Man content recently. I think Adam and Clay did a really good job, kind of highlighting a lot of the good things about the game and what makes the game great. And then one of our guest writers now on the website, Micah, posted something on there as part of our new Why I Love series that talks about just kind of like why we love certain games. And so he wrote up a piece about the Spider-Man game. That's over on the website, thereformedgamers.wordpress.com. And so yeah, it's a great game. If us singing the praises of that game has not get you to like play that game, at least Redbox it by now. I don't know what will at this point. It's a really, really good game, and it's making just about every other game I play now less good, I guess, because it's just not Spider-Man. So yeah, really good game. Really, really enjoyed it. I'm waiting for New Game Plus to drop so I can just have another reason to go back through the game and play it again.
I wish I had a PS4.
Dude, you gotta get one. You gotta get one. You know, Black Friday is coming up. You can probably get a sweet deal on one. And do that.
I don't have enough time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry
time.
I rabbit trailed you. Go ahead.
You don't need to sleep.
Ahead.
You don't need to sleep. Just saying. No one needs to sleep. Then the other game I do want to talk about a little bit is I technically finished Octopath Traveler, which is a game that I don't think I've ever been this, what's the word? Not confused, but
meh.
It's not meh exactly. Like, for the most part, I really enjoy this game. Like, I love the art. The music is so stinking good. Just, and the combat is like it's just buttery smooth good. It's just a lot of fun to play. But I just don't like the stories. I don't like the characters. I don't care for them, you know? And something I think the problem is just, and it goes back to what a lot of people had complaints of with the game when it first came out, is the characters just don't really interact. When you go through the story chapters for each character, you can press the plus button to get a banter section going on where they kind of talk and you kind of get to know these characters a little bit more, but it's nothing really meaningful. And so to me, it just it's a good thing the gameplay is so good. Otherwise, I would have stopped playing this game a long time ago. And it's also one of those games that it's not one that I can easily recommend because I'm just so conflicted on it. There it is, conflicted. And so far I'm about like 55 hours or plus into the game. I've completed 4 stories now. I've completed Ulbrich, Therion, Ophelia, and Cyrus's stories. I'm going to go through and finish the other 4 because apparently, is it 4? Yeah, the other 4 characters.
Yeah, that makes 8.
Numbers, math is hard. I'm gonna finish those stories because apparently that unlocks a secret bonus dungeon. That I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And apparently it like wraps the stories together really well and has this cool reveal. So I'm like, sure, I'll put another.
You are such a sucker for bonus dungeons.
I really am, man. If this game had a platinum trophy, I can guarantee you I'd be going for it by now. But I don't know. I like the game for the most part. It's just when it comes to the story stuff and the characters, I just don't care. I mean, Cyrus' story was pretty cool because it basically was Full Metal Alchemist. So the game is what it is. I'm sure that dear listeners that have been playing this game are enjoying it, and those that have played it that have given it up. I mean, I'm not going to convince you either way. In terms of recommending the game, I would personally wait until it drops down to $25 to $30. I don't think that's going to happen because it's a Nintendo exclusive, and those things retain their value insanely well. So it is what it is, and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure I'll talk about it next episode because like you said,
you got 4 more to go.
I've got 4 more to go and I got a dungeon to beat, so we're going to go there. But continuing on the show here, we're going to jump into what have you been reading, brought to you by Richard Morrow Keene. What have you been reading, man? Been reading anything?
I actually have. I've been working on my piddling goal of 12 books this year, so a book a month. And I'm doing okay. I'm about 7-8 books. So I'm only about a month behind, but I just finished for the first time Pilgrim's Progress, both parts of it. And that was one my wife had read, and I'd gotten to look at it, and I was like, this is supposedly one of the great books of the Christian faith, one of the greatest Christian allegories from back in the day, and I'd never read it. It was like Calvin's little book on the Christian life.
Yeah.
I hadn't read that. Well, I've now read that this year, and The Holiness of God, which
that's a
man,
good one. That
one will hurt you.
Yep.
So yeah, I finished that recently, and then I just started after that. I actually read like 3 theological books in a row. So I'm taking a kind of a break there. And I'm reading a Fables novel. Oh Lord, I got your words. It's hard. Peter and Max, which is based in the Fables world, same as Wolf is Among Us.
Okay,
I
was about to ask if that's the same universe as that game.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it's set as kind of a prequel to the comic series, kind of like Wolf Among Us was.
Right.
And so it's set kind of in that time period, and covers so far it'll be Peter Piper and his brother, the Pied Piper.
Okay.
So, that the way that this guy, if you've read any of the Fables, or even if you played Wolf Among Us, because it was done, it felt like a Fable story for sure. There's probably going to be a lot of darkness, twists, and turns, and it looks like it's going to be some good fun. So I hope to kind of burn through it and then get back on some theological stuff again.
Right on. It's cool stuff. I never actually picked those. Like, I've always seen those comic books, but I've never actually picked them up and checked them out for myself. I may do that someday when I get back into for comic books, but I don't. Do they even still call them comic books, or are they graphic novels now?
It depends on how they're released. If it's still thin line, it's still a comic book. When it comes in the thicker, condensed, like they took multiple comic books and put it together, it's a graphic novel.
Okay.
Kind of like with manga, you have the initial releases in the Jump magazines, and then you have what they call the Tankobon, which is a collection of all of those.
Okay.
And that's what the books are. So it's a similar thing to that.
Oh, okay. Right on. Well, as far as what I've been reading, I don't know if I wrapped up my talk about this book I had been reading for a while, The Art of Rest by Adam Mabry, or not, 2 episodes ago. If I have, dear listeners, you can just skip ahead. If I haven't, then cool, this will be an update for everybody else. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my favorite books when it comes to just theology, rest, like what that looks like, how we can find rest in our busy schedule, especially in American culture here, where we just work so much, and we kind of measure ourselves by how much we can get done in a day. And it's been challenging. It's something that a lot of the stuff that's been in the book, I've been trying to still wrestle through and try to find out ways I can implement it in my own life in terms of finding times to rest and things like that. And it's really good. It is a challenging read. So I will say that, dear listeners, if you pick the book up, it is going to be a challenging read. And one of the things that really challenged me, and this was closer to the end of the book, where he's talking about how we kind of our culture not necessarily worships, but definitely puts in a high value this idea of retirement, and how we just work so hard so we can have this time where we just don't work. And there's a couple quotes, there's a couple passages in the book that I highlighted, and I'll make these visible on my Goodreads if anybody is friends with me on there.
I am.
Oh, right on. I have friends on there. I didn't know that. So I'm just going to read 2 quotes. I don't know where these are exactly in the book because I read it on Kindle, so it just gives me my percentage. But he says here, in regards to kind of how we view retirement, he says here, to suffer with overworked bodies and underdeveloped souls in the golden years of our lives seems like an irony and a tragedy, the likes of which makes hell chuckle and heaven mourn. And when I read that, I had to put the book down for a second. I was like, good grief. Yeah. Because you think about it, right? And I see this a lot in youth ministry with parents, and it's just, we work so hard at our jobs, which is good. It's good. We should work hard. We should work to the glory of God. But a lot of times we work so hard that by the time we get home, we're too tired to pick up the Bible, or so we say. And then we're underdeveloped spiritually. So by the time we get into this rest period that we've been striving for, we don't actually enjoy it. We get bored because we're not, we didn't take the time to build up a theology of rest or any kind of theology, really. And I'm just like,
or Sabbath for that matter.
Yeah, or we didn't even take time to rest on the Sabbath, which is a sign of our faith, really, of resting in God and knowing that even while we rest, God's still working. And so he goes on to say this here in another passage, but this is how the world works, literally. And we Christians live in this ocean of overwork, and so without knowing it, we swim with its tides. We labor for that which cannot last, only to rest in that which cannot satisfy. And I'm just like, dude, this book is punching me in the chest here, and I don't like it. You know?
Oh, that's going on my list.
It's really good. Like I said, it's really challenging, especially if you're a workaholic. It's gonna hit you hard. He's gonna step on your toes, but it's really good. And so it's gotten me to rethink a lot of the things about how I really structure my days and what I do in those days, and how I just kind of proportion out work versus rest, and try to iron out what is laziness and stuff. But it's a good book, y'all. I'm telling you, it's one of my favorites right now. That's The Art of Rest by Adam Mabry. Again, if I already wrapped this talk up several episodes ago, I apologize for retreading similar ground, but I think it's worth bringing up again because of how relevant it is. So there you go. With that being said, let's just jump into the topic here, brought to you literally by David Skinner. So, man, Ready Player One. This movie came out in theaters earlier this year. It came out on Blu-ray and digital storefronts over the summer. And this is, I would consider this kind of beyond even a cult classic, really. I feel like this is maybe not a classic, but it's definitely very meta. Because the book is about, well, David, you've read the book, and I mean, you probably remember more about it than what I do. How would you describe Ready Player One to someone who's maybe never even heard of Ready Player One?
Okay, let's see if I can drop this in just a few sentences. For someone like me who was born in '79, grew up most of the time in the '80s and '90s, the book itself was a walk through my childhood that I never knew I wanted. The references to all the pop culture that I remember growing up, and I'm talking about the book right at the moment,
right?
Because the movie's something different, but we'll get to that. Anyway, the story is basically the story of just, how do I put this? You are given the chance to have all your dreams come true.
Yep.
It is another Willy Wonka, just set in the 80s, but really it's 2045, but it's the 80s. And it is so the 80s, and it is so gloriously the 80s.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of like Easter eggs and references to a lot of like pop culture things of that time period. Strung together throughout the book.
Yes.
Strung. They're in there. They're in the book. They're everywhere.
Yeah. And the movie on the same thing was more it still walked through the 80s, but it was like a pop radio station, 80s, 90s, and today.
Yes, it's exactly it.
So, and the thing that I appreciated about the movie was, while it wasn't the book, in some ways, thank goodness it wasn't the book. But in other ways, there's some stuff missing, and I think we'll get into that in a minute, because I wanted to kind of warn ahead. If you want to read this book or watch this movie, stop listening now, because there will be spoilers aplenty. warning, warning, spoilers coming, because I can't talk about this without just geeking out and forgetting everything is not known to everyone. So
That's true.
heads up.
This is going to be kind of similar to our video game episodes where we take a deep dive into the games themselves and kind of critique them and analyze them. So we're going to do the same thing with Ready Player One. So as Skinner said, spoiler. So if you haven't read the book or you haven't seen the movie yet, this is your opportunity to kind of pause the podcast, go read the book or check out the movie, or I don't know, do both, and then come back to this. So let's, without further ado, I mean, we've given you plenty of warnings now. If you're still listening, you don't care about spoilers, or you've read both the book and the movie, and you're okay with that. So let's talk about this a little bit. You follow Wade Watson in both the book and the movie, as he kind of lives in this virtual world called the Oasis, which, like you said, it very aptly put, is your dreams come true. If you want to be, you can be whoever you want to be. If you want to be Sonic the Hedgehog, you can be Sonic the Hedgehog. If you want to be, I don't know, you fill in the blank. And so
Keroppi, I mean,
yeah.
Anyone from Overwatch?
Yeah.
Cloud.
You could be Cloud, yeah. Or you could be, I thought about this when I read the book. I'm like, who would I be if I was in the Oasis? I think I would be
Kefka.
Zangief. No, not Kefka. I'd be Zangief. Just because I remember seeing him in Wreck-It Ralph and just how he talks, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny. I'm sure my wife would get
Indeed.
annoyed, but So you follow Wade Watts in this virtual world of Oasis, and then oh man, I'm blanking on the creator's name that created the Oasis. What is his name? Halliday.
James Halliday.
James Halliday, that's it. And he's kind of like a Steve Jobs kind of character of the story, where he created the Oasis. He's just very brilliant. He passes away.
Only more Sheldon-like.
Definitely more Sheldon Cooper-like. Yes. He's definitely kind of awkward.
Yeah.
But very, very brilliant, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And so he issues this challenge upon his death. It's a video that goes out to all the Oasis. That issues a challenge that really starts the whole thing. Is you have to hunt these 3 keys down. You got to find these 3 trials to get these 3 keys. And if you get all 3 keys, then you have complete ownership over the Oasis. And so you basically become Halliday in the real world, and you inherit the entire company. And of course, this leads to IOI trying to
stealing my joke, man.
Were you gonna make that joke too?
Yeah, I actually had that wrote down.
Dude, no joke. When I was watching the movie and even reading the book, that's all I thought about the entire time.
That's
I'm
all I
like, this
could
is
think.
EA. Yeah, all these microtransactions and ads they want to put into Oasis. This is totally.
And you could have these different level tiers, gold, platinum, or water, since it's the Oasis.
There you go. Water too.
That scene was hilarious. I was like, when he's doing that, I'm like, wow, so this is how EA happened.
Yep. This is it. That plot twist. This is what the story is really about. It's about how EA came to be. So I mean, where do we want to start with this? Do
you want to hit the book first, or do you want to hit the movie first? Because you're doing the movie plot right now, so we could hit the movie first and then backtrack to the better, to the book.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the movie. I feel like that's going to be more fresh in people's minds. So let's
okay.
hop over there, man. Where do we want to start with the movie?
Opening with Jump was genius.
Yes, I will agree with that. Got the nostalgia going. I was like, okay, I'm in for a good time, I feel like. But,
I mean, it was instant. It was like as soon as that hit, you were like, oh, yes, okay.
And I think that was something that was important for them to do because of just how much that book is just drenched in that era. And so to kind of get that starting off on the right foot, it's like, all right, let's keep it going. This is going to be fun. But I mean, of course, with the movie, I mean, it's a very similar plot point here or there, well, somewhat. Basically, they're trying to find all of these trials to get the keys so they can be they can inherit the Oasis, and they're trying to keep IOI from doing it. But I mean, I don't know. Let's start off with this at least. What do you think about the movie? Do you think it's a good movie? Do you think it's a bad movie? Let's start there.
For what it is, I enjoyed the movie if I ignored the book.
Yeah.
Like when I could turn off the book and I just looked at the movie for what it was, like if you haven't seen it and you're still listening, go watch the movie first, then go read the book.
Yeah.
The movie for what it is, if you like action and references and one-liners and just then watch the movie. It's amazing. It's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely
in and of it.
It's definitely very entertaining, and I'm the same way with you. Like if you've read the book, I mean, I had to shut the book off pretty much in my head in order to enjoy this. And then when I did that, I'm like, okay, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. I think the CG looks really good. A lot of the things that's going on, it's fun. It looks great. But there's definitely some differences. But I think that I would agree with you. If you take the movie for what it is, it's enjoyable. It's fun. The whole end scene thing at the castle, I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But where does this differ from the book, though, exactly? Because I know people are probably going to wonder that. Maybe people that are listening that haven't read the book. How is this different than the book exactly?
Okay, well, for one, with the book, you've got very anti-Christian, anti-religion, super secular atheism for like almost a chapter and a half.
Yeah.
As he he just rails against it. The funny thing being is that the one character in the beginning of the book living in the stacks that shows him any kind of niceness, like takes care of him, puts him up, feeds him and everything, is Mrs. Gilmore.
Yep.
Who he says, well, she's super religious and a member of this mega church, and she's crazy for believing this. But I think it's funny that even then, like, even the secular is, how am I trying to say this? The secularist in him is trying to call out what he see as basically stupidity and craziness without realizing that he just pointed out that that's the only person who shows any kindness to Wade.
Yeah.
Is this person he's been railing against for like 7 chapters. Which she gets a brief nod in the movie.
Yeah. Which I thought was weird that she, like, because I mean, you read the book and that she's maybe not a huge part, but a meaningful amount, a meaningful part of his life, and she just gets a little nod, and it's like, well, that's weird. You know?
Then she didn't even die. Like that was a part of the plot was that in the book she's killed with the rest of his quote unquote family in the explosion in the stacks.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, she's the first one that confronts Sorrento.
Oh, you're right. Huh.
So like, and that was like another problem I had with the movie was like the 2 biggest deaths that actually meant something, because in the book, his family is so much more horrible than what's portrayed in the movie. Yeah. In the movie, you almost kind of are like, oh man, that's kind of lame. You feel bad for Alice, but in the book you didn't. Like she was worse than the boyfriends were.
Yeah, because they were both pretty mean.
Yeah. But Miss Gilmore dies, and then Daito is killed in real life. Like they found him in real life, and that's what led to them realizing that that they had found some others, and that was a hard one too. Well, that was, and he lives in the end of the movie.
That was such a huge part of the book too, because I mean, the stacks being blown up by IOI was the first indication that you're like, dude, IOI is ruthless. I don't think EA would ever get this bad, but maybe they will. But you keep going and you see how IOI is, and then you hear that Daito gets killed, and it's like, dude, IOI just doesn't care. Like you really see how evil these people are. And yeah, that doesn't really come through in the movie a whole lot. I didn't feel like you saw they were kind of like the bad guys, but they were kind of the more like Rocky and Bullwinkle's villains thing. They're kind of campy and kind of dumb and prone to outbursts, but they're not all that threatening, really. I mean, sure, they blow up the stack still, but it never really comes across as like truly evil, like
that they're ruthless and evil.
Yeah, exactly. So
it doesn't come through the true depths that they're willing to go through, how important this is to them, that they give no junk about just taking anyone's life. Like it doesn't matter to them. They're just they're gonna kill whoever they have to get control of the Oasis.
Yeah.
Let's see some other differences. Samantha's not the one that ends up in the loyalty center.
Yeah. Yeah.
He puts himself in the loyalty center.
I remember that because there was a thing. Yeah, I remember that in the book because they didn't IOI show up. Yeah, they showed up at his doorstep at his apartment that he got.
Yeah.
And like he had like a fake alias or something because he snuck in there, which I thought, I don't know, that whole thing was kind of weird with the whole like rebellion group thing that wasn't really in the book. I'm like,
yeah,
why did we need this? Because here's my thing is in the movie, or at least no, in the book, Wade Watts is super smart. Like he figures things out really, really well. He's a brilliant. As are a lot of the other Gunters that are hunting down these keys. You never really see that in the movie. He's just kind of a kid, and it's
he's almost painted as a schmuck at some point.
Yeah, because he's
just
dumb sometimes in the movie, and I don't know. It's weird to me when I see movies do that because the Hobbit movies did this too with Bilbo in comparison to the book, but we won't go down that route. And so it's weird to me to see them take this character who's brilliant in the book and tone him down for the movie, and it's like, do you think? I don't know. It just made me wonder. Like, did they think that the audience was just not going to relate to him at all? I don't know. It's just really
that may
weird.
Be part of it. Now, to be fair, the writer of the book was involved in the screenplay.
Oh, he was.
So, yes, he was. He was also an executive producer.
Oh.
So yeah, Ernest Cline. So a lot of these changes he probably approved of. Like he was like, okay, we'll do this because some of the stuff. Okay, so like I got a list of good losses, bad losses, but good, and just overall bad losses from the book to the movie. Good losses. That whole anti-Christian sentiment and the virtue signaling with H. Like they just ignore it in the movie. Like they don't even touch on it. That in the book, they made her the most intersectional character you could have ever had. As an overweight black lesbian who got kicked out of her mom's house because she came out and her mom was religious and said no and kicked her out. Like in the book, that's who H is.
I had forgotten
in the
about
movie.
That. Yeah.
In the movie, they don't even talk about her backstory other than her dad called her H. Like they just completely blow over it, except for the Shining scene where she's like, "Okay, I'll go with it," which doesn't even like really mean anything.
Right.
So that was, to me, that was kind of a good loss. I mean, yeah, it made the character less interesting, maybe, but it didn't force some, like in the book, it felt forced. Like when he started going through all that, it was like, dude, you're just writing this to virtue signal. Like you are making this character and it's just that one character, like didn't like spread any of it around. It was just this one character was every hot button thing that they could think of to put in one character. I mean, and I liked her mom's story, which is like she created a white male avatar because she could get more jobs. And, you know, the social commentary there, I think I was missing. Like you could have had that.
Yeah. Do you think that would have been a little too like hot button for the movie though, for like the general audience?
It might have been too much for the movie. I think it could have been treated better in the book than it was. But so that was one of those. And then bad losses, but in the end, it's good because of the fact you're going from book to movie. It was keys and gates. So you had to go through the trial to get the key. Once you got the key, you got to find the gate. Once you find the gate, you got another trial to go through to finish it. So it was a 2-part thing.
That's right. It was a 2-parter in the book. Yeah.
And so, the second part was always some movie related thing, which I was sad not to see, but I could understand the movie was already long enough. It would have been made insanely long, reliving scenes from war games and Monty Python and,
And I
The
wonder,
Breakfast Club.
I wonder how much of that too, because me and my wife were talking about it because we had just finished reading the book when we watched the movie, and we were wondering like we were frustrated that that stuff wasn't in there because I thought that was a really cool part of the book.
Yes, me too.
But I wonder how much of that had to do with like licensing. I wonder if they couldn't pull that off without.
Did you notice there were no lightsabers? There was no Darth Vader. There was no Millennium Falcon other than a mention.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, it was all DC Universal.
Huh.
So yeah. You had a lot of Batman. You had the main bad guy
That's
using
true.
evil Superman from Injustice.
That's right.
So yeah, I think there was a lot of licensing that had to do with that.
Yeah.
That being said, that was one of the changes that I loved
Really?
of an ad. One of the changes, all the Back to the Future Zemeckis references,
Okay.
the Zemeckis cube, rotating time back. I mean, that was in the book, but stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that wasn't in the book. No, that was a movie thing.
Wait, which one was it?
The Zemeckis cube
Oh, yeah.
that backs up time 60 seconds. That wasn't in the book. So, they added that, and the music had a very Back to the Future-esque sound to it. So it brought you back to the 80s. So, I thought that was a good ad. Another loss, but good. The whole Pac-Man thing is how he gets the quarter in the book.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite
None
parts
of us
the
are going to
book.
want to sit there and watch. Well, I take that back. I would probably want to sit there and watch somebody completely beat Pac-Man.
I would say I would too. They could have easily done some sort of montage thing if they edited that right. They probably could have done that pretty quick. But
the way they do it in the movie, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that as forced. I was like, oh, that's a cute way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That here's this guy that's researched this other guy's best friend so hard he knew him better than he did.
Right.
Okay, bad losses though. 3 keys of the needed for the last gate. That you had to have 3 people who had gotten the crystal key.
Yep.
Together at the last gate to open it, showing that Halliday was trying to push friendship.
Yeah.
In the end, he was trying to push reality, which, that I think was a loss, a horrible loss.
Yeah, because I think that would have really helped. I think that would have really helped the movie, especially with kind of one of the lines that says at the end, which we'll get to here in a little bit.
Yeah, and then I'd already mentioned this, but what I feel was just took a lot of the heart out of the movie, losing Toshiro's and Mrs. Gilmore's deaths in real life.
Yeah,
those I think would have made you, like you said, we would have seen the true evil of IOI.
Yeah.
At that point,
and I think it would have got you more invested. I think it would have really put you in the shoes of Wade Watson. Really, everybody else is okay, we need to we need to root for them to go against these guys because of how bad they are.
So yeah, we lost all of the buildup of Wade because in the book he's poor and super poor. He doesn't have all that gear at the beginning. He has the school issue Oasis rig.
Right.
And I get you only have so long, but again, montage could have, helped a little bit of this.
Which would have been perfect, actually, to fit in with the 80s theme of the movie, is to put in some kind of montage where he gets a new apartment, he's building up his gear, he's setting up his new rig and getting his haptic suit in and all that stuff. It could have been done.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine.
It could, and wouldn't have added too much to the movie either.
No, not at all.
And so because of all that, you don't connect to Wade like you do in the book.
Right.
And so that was kind of kind of hard. The Bill and Ted reference was nice though.
Yeah.
They did it in Bill and Ted.
So
the backwards race.
So at this point, and yeah, let me get your thoughts on the trials, man, because to me, the trials in the movie were fun to watch, but the thing I liked about the trials in the book was that they were
you had to know
smart.
stuff.
Yeah. In this one, it's just like, and this is something I thought about. I forget who I was talking to or who I was listening to talking about this. Because the movie takes place like 5 years after Halliday died or something like that, a period of time after Halliday died. And one of my friends said, like, so let me get this straight. You have all these people trying to get this thing, and in 5 years, no one figured out how to drive backwards on the race? Like, it was one of my friends, because he made a joke about how that's the first thing he does when he plays racing games. And so I was just like, yeah, sure, I guess it's kind of smart, but there's other stuff like in the book, like you really had to know Halliday, which is something that we can touch on here in a second. But like you really had to know stuff about Halliday in order to even figure out how to even start. And pop culture too, yeah. And like,
I mean, because the Crystal Key,
yeah,
and, knowing Blade Runner and Rush, see what else.
What was that? Joust. You had to like, because you had to figure out how to. It was like you got to be on the left joystick, or was it the right? One of the two.
Yeah, because of how he had learned to play against H, he had to be on the first player joystick.
Yeah, and so that
and that's how he finally.
Yeah, and then that gave him an advantage, and then he winds up telling that to Artemis, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of
the whole D&D thing, like you had to know that particular first release in order to know where all the traps were.
Yeah.
Or you would be just completely destroyed at the end. Which I miss Ludus altogether. I thought Ludus was an amazingly well thought out idea.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it gets a brief nod. You see it when he's flying in, talking about the Oasis. You see Ludus for a second. And then when he talks about changing all the schools to being Shermer, that was already part of it. But since we're just talking about the trials themselves, so you had the D&D cell for that dungeon. And then he played Joust, which then leads to War Games. After he gets to Halliday's room. Then for the next one, we had, what was it? What was the next?
I don't remember. I don't remember the second one. But.
Oh, yeah, Zork. It was that text-based dungeon game.
That's right. It was yes, because he had to type it in correctly, and he kept testing out different commands.
Yes. And which then led to I think Breakfast Club.
Yes.
And then the last one being Blade Runner and Rush.
Yes.
Leading to the final gate, which was
it Q-Bert?
Holy Grail? No, it was Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And then once you finish that, then there was that room full of consoles.
That's right.
That he figured out he had to play, which they kept. Adventure on the 2600, not to win, but to get the
because you had to find the Easter egg in there.
The first Easter egg, yeah.
First ever Easter egg. Yeah. And so
I mean, how much of that can you put in the movie?
That's true. That's a good point, because that is a lot of stuff. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it a Netflix TV show at that point.
Oh, dude, that would have been awesome.
I know, right?
I think this would have worked better as a serialized show, because there were so many points in the book where there were breaks like that. Like you were like, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And I think it would probably done better as a series.
Yeah. Same here. But I was gonna say, I don't mean to make people think like, man, these guys really hate the movie. They must like, they're like, actually the book was better. it's not that. Like I said, the movie's enjoyable, and I mean, I guess the book is better. I'm gonna be one of those people, but so let's kind of shift gears just real quick here. As I think our time's gonna be coming up here. Let's talk about some of the themes of this. One of the things I kind of alluded to earlier was how you had to know things about Halliday, and you see this in both really the book and the movie. One of the things that they do is they basically they kind of idolize Halliday. Like, they know everything about this guy, to the point where it's kind of creepy, and it is idolatrous, man.
Well, think about when he calls them out at the end for the thing. They're like, in the name of the high five, in the name of Parzival, in the name of James Halliday. You know, like they're calling in the name of.
Yeah, they had like a Trinity thing going on there.
Yeah, it was kind of like, really, guys? Really? This is where you're going to go?
Which, isn't that interesting with how kind of secular the book comes across, that they do that? Like, it's like, oh, we don't really believe in this religion stuff, yet that's exactly what they're engaging in is a man-made religion.
Well, the heart is a idol factory.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
You know.
And that's really what the kind of sense that I got from the book was there's just so much idolatry. And even when it comes to the Oasis, it's like you can be whoever you want to be, doesn't matter, you know? Which I think
you can be your own God.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to try to get to. I just didn't know how to get there, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. That saved a lot of time. Kind of like the movie did cutting stuff out of the book. So, but yeah, it's interesting at how man-centric this story really is, you know? And just how you really see this epitomized in IOI, in this, we're going to do what we want. We don't care who we hurt. We're going to get what we want. And if you don't fall in line, we're going to kill you, you know? Kind of the whole, like, if you don't join us or whatever, then we'll just kill you kind of thing. Pretty radical, but it's really, I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of the end result of a lot of the characters in the book. If they just, if they really, I mean, a lot of them wanted the Easter egg, they wanted to gain control of the Oasis. But I mean, if you think about it, if you get to the end of it and Parzival just basically, let's just say, killed the other characters, he would be no different than IOI.
Right.
So what makes Parzival different then?
He actually does grow throughout both the book and the movie. The movie doesn't show it as well. I think, oh, crud, I'm getting real bad about it, ain't I? But he does grow, and I think the quote that I wrote down as kind of like the ultimate point that they thought they were trying to send, you know, because they missed all these other ones that they were sending. But the ultimate point they thought they were trying to send was actually a good one. Reality is real. You know, Halliday says that at the end when he's giving him the egg. He's like, one, you can shut the Oasis down at any time with this button. In the book, if I remember correctly, that wasn't going to destroy everything. That was just going to turn it off. There was a complete destruction button, but then there was also just an off button.
Yeah. It's kind of like it just like turn the servers off or something. It didn't really delete everything. It just didn't allow people to access it. But
they kind of gloss over it a little bit, except then and the scene in the garden, where reality is real. And you have to get out of this fake world because reality is the only place to get a good sandwich. You know,
I like that line a lot. Yeah.
You know, and it shows the point, you know, it kind of calls into question, I felt for me, some of the ways that I spend my time escaping reality. Granted, it's not in a virtual world yet, but oh wait, yes it is. Just not one that yeah. So, you know, I think it does point out that, and that is a good thing for Christians to understand, that we are called to God's standard, And so we have to really make sure that we are being good stewards of our time. That doesn't mean we can't enjoy this stuff, but it does mean that we need to be very careful about them becoming our idol.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring that up because, I think back to kind of what we talked about on Patch Notes with how Ninja is on the cover of ESPN for playing Fortnite and just being such a heavy influencer. And then to piggyback on Fortnite, I mean, a study came out the other day, or an article came out the other day, I should say a couple of weeks ago now, saying that Fortnite was cited in like 40 divorce cases.
Oh yeah, I saw that when you posted it. That made me sad.
Yeah, same here, man. And I'm like, Fortnite's good and all, but not good enough to make me not want to spend time with my wife. It is that kind of thing. Is how do we spend our time? I think this is really kind of the crux of how we're getting it into the podcast here. Is we all play games, we all enjoy games, but it gets to a point where we're escaping a little too much. We're escaping for maybe the wrong reasons. We're not really enjoying the world. And it says in the Bible that we're to be content with what God has given us, and we're to eat, drink, be merry, enjoy the life that God has given us, and to find just not like find, but to take stock of those blessings and to enjoy them. And you can't really do that if you're constantly escaping into another reality, so to speak, and so I think that's the thing that kind of came across to me, at least when reading the book, and to an extent in the movie at the end, where at the very end where they mention it, as it got me to think, like, well, how often am I playing video games when I should be doing something else? Have I been neglecting priorities that I should be getting around to? Has this gotten in the way of ministry? Has this gotten in the way of all these other things? And it's interesting at how this story that is grounded in secularism tends to hearken or point to relationships, getting out and being with people, as it says in scripture, to go there, to carry one another's burdens, to meet together, to gather, to love on one another. It's like, well, where's that standard come from? Well, it comes from God. I mean, apart from that, you don't really have a standard to strengthen that on. And so it's interesting that this movie, or at least this story, points to that, even though it kind of it kind of shakes a fist at God in a few places. It kind of makes me think of how, like, well, maybe what one man meant for evil, God meant for good.
It was one thing that came up because my wife and I read it together as well, and we would stop every now and then and start talking about these things. I was like, as secular as he's trying to be, he's actually, like, the truth that comes out is always going to be God's truth. And even in a lot of the darkness of secularism, without them realizing it, the truth is in there.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to go after that truth. What they don't realize is God's already given us a way to do it. They don't have to find their own way.
Yeah.
But again, that is the punishment for it. And he gave them over to their sin. And how scary is that?
It's scary, man. It's funny because, like, I've talked with students about this a couple times. Like, they think it's all good and stuff. I'm like, no, think about what that actually means. That stuff that is a sin, God's handing you over to it to just run rampant, to just experience all of the effects of it. Think about where that's going to get you. Is that really such a good thing now? And a lot of times they're like, well, no, that sounds really bad. I'm like, you're right. It's not good, but folks don't tend to think about that because it feels good at the moment.
Right. And they don't want to think about the fact that, and this is, I heard this quote today and I thought it was oddly appropriate, considering what we've been reading in this book and what we've seen from this movie, The Truth there. They're mad at God because they see God as wrath or as just as rule maker or whatever. And then others see him as just love. Well, God loves us, so we can just do whatever. Well, a quote from the Holiness of God that Sproul said, God in the Bible, they don't say that God is love, 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 grace, 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 wrath, 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 any of those things. What do they say? He is holy, holy, holy.
Yep.
And that's the difference. Our sin nature recoils in fear from the holiness of God, as well it should. But we should also recoil in fear from the holiness of God.
Yeah.
If we actually looked at his holiness and had respect for it like we should, it would give us fear.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it, I don't know, it might make us, I would think that it would make us more drawn to him, and this is something I've been kind of wrestling in my own life, is like, I say all these things about God that I know to be true, but do the actions of my life actually point to that? Do the actions of my life agree with the things I say I believe? Because I would think that if that's true, if I really believe those things, then my actions would cut down on gaming a little bit. They would push me to share the gospel with more people, and that's been kind of my challenge over the past few weeks. And I'm not trying to get to a point where I'm trying to tell you, dear listeners, don't play video games or anything like that. But it gets to a point where you have to have these moments of reflection where you ask yourself, am I spending a little too much time playing the video games? Am I spending a little too much time reading whatever? Am I spending a little too much time? Fill in the blank, pick your poison, essentially. And I feel like, at least with this story, it's pointing to those things. It's asking the right questions, just not getting to the right conclusions.
Indeed.
So.
Indeed.
But there's that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was going to say. I feel like there was one more thing, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. So I guess we'll have to save that for a later discussion, dear listeners, because we are quickly running out of time. But real quick, I did throw out a thing on Patreon to get some responses for this episode of what people thought of the story, the book, or the movie, or whatever. David, you said, man, I can't wait to see what you guys talk about. Well, now you know.
But
Micah hasn't read the story or watched it, but he loves the topic. So, man, hopefully, if you stayed this far into the show, you still have an interest to read the book. I think the book's really good. I really, really like the book. The movie's fine too. I mean, it is what it is. Wesley Ray gave us a good response. He says he listens to the audiobook a few years back and enjoyed it for what it was. A decent nostalgia-driven Willy Wonka tale. There's your analogy there, Skinner. Tale set in a grungy future. It had some fun references and a pretty good premise, but I was born a little bit later than the target audience, so a lot of what was talked about was just kind of noise to me. I felt that the movie was honestly the best we could hope for as far as an adaptation goes. I can't even imagine how difficult it was for them to get the rights to showcase all the different IPs they had in the movie. And with what I know of the references in the book, it would have been basically impossible for it to be 100% accurate. I agree. But still, we could have got that, what was that dude at the end? They replaced him with a Gundam, which was still cool. But
yeah. The robot from that Japanese Oh man.
Yeah, because then they had the robot from Supaida Man, the Japanese Spider-Man.
Yes.
One. And then there was I want to say it was like
that was the reward.
Yes.
From that cabinet at the that was what we couldn't think of. The second one.
You got the mechs. Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's
you got to choose a mech.
That's how
we got Mecha Godzilla.
Yes. Gosh, dude. Okay, I'm gonna watch this movie another time, for the third time this week. Anyway, Wesley Ray continues on and says that he actually enjoyed what they were able to do with it. Felt that some of the changes helped to move the story along faster, which they did. He's glad they didn't dwell too much on all the retro minutia the book described for several pages. Some of the stuff with the Shining section didn't make as much sense, having never seen the movie, but I was able to follow along easily enough. It was certainly more approachable than the book ever could be. Unfortunately, the movie cut out the best cameo of all, Ultraman. That's it. That's what I was thinking of, Ultraman. And that, in my mind, is a travesty. I agree with you on that, Wesley. He continues on, speaking on the worldview. I was pleased that the movie was less overtly atheistic than the book was, which we talked about earlier. I felt that the author was clearly making a point early on in the book, and I almost stopped listening there. The smugness was palpable, and it reminded me of Gene Roddenberry and his overriding atheistic drive when crafting the Star Trek universe. In comparison, I really don't remember too much bashing of religion in the movie, but I may have missed something since seeing it in theaters. It was less atheistic and more of not really addressing very much one way or the other as far as I recall. So
he's right.
Yeah. Spot on. Spot on. Dear listeners, if you have thoughts about Ready Player One, let us know on Twitter at TRG Podcast or in the Facebook group or in the various social media outlets that I'm about to plug. But before we get in there and before we get to Recos, I don't know why my voice is cracking at this point. That's totally weird. But it's our patron thank you episode. We want to shout out to our patrons that support us over on patreon.com that help us keep the lights running, help us keep the controllers charged, and help me stay fully stocked with Red Bull so I can get my platinum trophies. Those patrons are Alex Castellanos, Alex Hooper, Caleb Schmidt, Christopher Commander, David Skinner, Derek Smith, Eric Bryant, Gareth Evans, Jake Walker, Jeff Wofford, Jesse Penu, Josh Broccolo, Luke Strain, Matthew McDonegal. I'm just going to call you by what I know you on Facebook. Matthew White Chocolate McDougal? Oh, I blanked on your last name. I'm sorry. Micah Hendrick, Michael Toller, Mitch Etheridge, the Jet Islander Podcast, and Wesley Ray. Guys, thank you so much for your support over on patreon.com. We appreciate that greatly. We enjoy getting to kind of get that back to you guys in a little bit of way through our gift cards and Discords and all that fun stuff. But David,
I haven't won a Discord yet.
You haven't won a Discord yet? Oh, a gift card. I was like, dude, you won Discord. Like, you're on there every day with me. We're always talking. I feel like we're best friends at this point. Speaking of best friends.
Almost.
So, man, Recos brought to you by Gareth Evans. What would you recommend for the dear listeners to check out this week?
Okay, well, in case you missed my ramblings, I actually loved both the book and the movie. I say go see the movie first. And if you're younger, go ahead and see the movie first. It's going to hit you closer. Halo, Battletoads,
Overwatch, yeah,
Chucky's in there, Overwatch, yeah. Street Fighter, all those, even the new Ninja Turtles, which was kind of like, oh wow, they're in there.
Yeah, they were in there.
But then go read the book with caveats. A lot of language in the movie and the book.
Yeah.
So not necessarily kid friendly. And then, of course, we've discussed the worldview issue. But I think the book really, I enjoyed the book a lot, especially if you're nearing 40 like I am. It's going to take you down memory lane so hard that you may never get back. Secondly, and I see there's probably going to be, this is going to be our anime recos. I love MHA, but I'm going to reco a different anime. In case you haven't seen it, it's called Cells at Work. And it is about the inside of the human body and how it works. And so imagine white blood cells wielding knives, attacking germs that are like going over the top anime, laughing at them like they're supervillains. It's great.
Dude, sold. Just that visual image sounds awesome.
It is. And the other thing, look up Cells at Work platelets, and there is so much cute there your head will explode. Now it is subbed. I don't think they have a dub yet, so if you're an anti-subber, well, one, you're wrong, but two, you can deal with it. It's just that good. And like they tell you like accurate information. Like my wife was telling me there's a video of a doctor watching this show, and he was like really impressed with how accurate it was. And he was like, well, actually what they do is this. And what he doesn't realize is in a later episode, they talk about that thing there. So it was pretty cool. So that's from my wife. And then lastly, your backlog. I recommend your backlog. Either work on it or clean it out. Sell it off. I got a buddy of mine who's trying to sell off some of his PS3 stuff to clean out his backlog. Mm-hmm. Either work on it or go full Adam, sell it off, buy the new stuff.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If you haven't played it yet and it's been sitting on your shelf for more than 2 years, you're probably not going to play it.
You've probably forgotten about it at this point.
So that's what I got.
Right on, man. Well, as far as my recos go, this is something that just came out on PS4 and Xbox, which is Hollow Knight Void Heart Edition. It's the classic 2D. No, I keep calling things classic, and they're not really old enough to be classics yet. It's the 2D side-scrolling kind of Soulsborne type of game that's been out on PC for a while. It came out on Switch a couple months ago. It's a challenging game, but I enjoy it. I'll actually be putting out some content for it for their YouTube and Twitch. A little bit later on this week for the, or I guess by the time you're listening to this, we'll have content up on YouTube for that game. So definitely go check that out. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the game. It is challenging. I'll let you know about that straight up. But I think you'll have some fun with it. My other reco is going to be watch My Hero Academia if you haven't yet. Like, real quick.
Are you ready?
Just. So pre-show, me and Skinner were talking about this show because this latest season 3. Here's my thing. I got started on this show shortly after it came out. I'm like, oh, this show's cool. It's the first like superhero thing that isn't Marvel or DC that I can get into. I'm digging it. Season 2, I got to the end of season 2, and I was like, okay, this is cool, but there's a little bit of a wait until season 3. When season 3 came out, I was like, I just don't really care. I waited so long. My hype's gone. A few friends kind of pushed me to watch it, get it started. And I watched a few episodes. I'm like, this is okay. I'm not really feeling it. Third episode, I was like, dude, there are like cat superheroes. This is ridiculous. I don't care. I'm going to keep watching. And to the point where I'm at now, it's just I'm back on full steam ahead, getting hyped with the show. And apparently, I haven't seen anything yet. As Skinner was telling me, as some of the friends were telling me.
Nope.
Friends of the show, Colin, my boy, love you, dude, was telling me, I haven't seen nothing yet. So if you haven't seen My Hero Academia yet and you're into superheroes, watch this show, okay? You can watch it on Funimation. You can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on Crunchyroll if you have Verve, which is my personal platform of choice.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch it there. Just check the show out.
Verve has both the Funimation and the subtitled. Well, so you can actually get both of them on Verve.
There you go. So that way, when you finish one, you can watch the other again because you'll like it so much you will want to watch it again. Trust me. So yeah.
Well, Chris Sabalmite makes it worth it.
Crystal Ball.
Chris Sabalmite, as we call it. Chris Sabat, the voice of Piccolo and Vegeta. He voices All Might in the dub. So.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
That's Piccolo?
Yes, I am.
Even more reason for me to watch this show now because Piccolo is my favorite character and I love that voice actor. All right, well, I'm not getting any sleep tonight. I'm supposed to see you at the poll tomorrow morning. It ain't gonna happen because I'll be watching My Hero Academia. I'm totally kidding. I'm not gonna shirk my responsibilities. But anyway, dear listeners, thank you for checking out this episode of The Reformed Gamers. As always, you can interact with us on a variety of platforms. If you like what we do here at the show, why not head over to patreon.com/The Reformed Gamers to consider lending your support to help keeping the lights on, keeping the controllers charged, and keeping my fridge well stocked with Red Bull so I can get my platinum trophies because I like my platinum trophies. You can also head over to youtube.com/The Reformed Gamers to check out episodes of the show, any Twitch archive streams, or any just kind of things we'll put up there. You can also follow us on twitch.tv/TRG podcast to always be notified of when we go live and stream video games and things like that. Head over to the website also when you got a chance, thereformedgamers.wordpress.com, to check out show notes for the show, check out any kind of opinion pieces we put up, check out that sweet article by Micah written on Spider-Man. You can also go over to reddit.com/r/thereformedgamers. I think that's the correct URL. It'll be in the show notes, so you can go there. Head over there, check out some of the posts, interact with some of the other dear listeners, and go from there. You can also follow us on Twitter at TRG Podcast, and you can also join the Facebook group, The Reformed Gamers. When you request to join, please answer all 3 questions. Don't just hit the request button and assume we'll let you in because we're nice, friendly Christians. If you don't answer the questions, we're going to think you're a Terminator, and we're just not going to say no to you because we ain't going to let no T-1000s in there. Ain't going to happen. I've seen Terminator 2.
I'll be back.
And Skinner will be in there. He'll be back. He'll be in there in a few minutes. So yeah, head over there. Check that stuff out. I'm sure I'm forgetting some of the other ways that you can interact with us, but those are the main ones. Skinner, man, thank you for joining us. Or Wall Adam, as I should call you. Thank you for joining us on the show and filling in for Adam.
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Oh, man, let's get Wall Adam and Smash Brothers, dear listeners. Anyway, dear listeners, until next time, GG and amen.